With all of the chaos, it's sometimes hard to separate the politics from business. And right now, it seems like everything in Washington, D.C. is upside down. But for me personally, I try not to be too political because I don't want to push any of my political bias onto my subscribers. However, I can tell you this: I am not a registered Democrat, but I am not a registered Republican either. And I am not registered in the Independent Party, which is actually a political party. That being said, so far, this is the most interesting season of The Apprentice ever. A true cliffhanger. So, what do the markets say? Let's take a look. Starting out with the 6-month daily chart on the spiders, the close on Friday was 290.41. Going back to the late June, early July timeframe, we had the correction here that came below the 50 EMA. Subsequent to that, we've been riding all the way up here, pretty much on the top side of the 20 EMA. And I have wanted to see another move down at least to the 50 EMA for another reset before we head up in another upward move. But that's not come yet. And the oscillators are giving me some mixed indications. So this is when it gets kind of hard. So let's take a look at the MAC. Definitely had that bottom here and then up. And it looks like we might be heading over in kind of an arc. So we may get some kind of a consolidation coming up here into next week or so. I'm not quite sure because here we have the histogram. Looks fine. Everything is running between, say, those two lines, moving sideways, and that's a fairly strong market. And then we have the price rate of change, which has just told us that it wants to head above the fast line, above the slow line here. So some contradicting indications here. Relative strength riding on the 50 line right in the middle. So that's not giving us much of an indication. Here the stochastics somewhat similar to the MACD where things have come here and they're starting to slide down. Now into the volume. The volume looks fine. And then the Williams also has told us that it wants to head down going below that midline or the 50 line and no stopping yet. So there may be a possibility that we get a little bit more of a contraction into next week, perhaps even to the following week. We'll just have to wait and see. But let's go back up here to the price chart so you can take one more look at that. Again, everything on the price chart looks healthy, but the fundamentals, or at least, excuse me, the oscillators that underlie this chart are showing me that there's a little bit of breakdown. Let's now go to the 2-year weekly chart and see if that has any indication. This is the 2-year weekly chart on the spiders. And of course, because of the different time frame measure, I would be looking for a contraction or a consolidation, the price chart coming down now to the 20 EMA. Again, that's different than the daily charts. So, because this is the weekly chart, so moving down to that 20 EMA, such as in this time frame here, would give us another perhaps foundation for an upward move from there. But the price chart is showing a little bit of hesitation in this area here, and we'll look at the oscillators and I can show you what it looks like there. Here in the MACD, you can kind of see a little bit of hesitation starting to occur here. Will it give us a correction moving down to the slow line and then a reflection off? We'll wait and see, but it does look like it's starting to curve over, and we can also see that in the histogram. Definitely a much more pronounced curve and downward move. So I expect that we're perhaps going to have some consolidation into next week, and perhaps the week after that. We'll have to wait and see. But that is also shown here in the price rate of change when this is heading on over and the fast line just went through the slow line here. Doesn't mean we're going to have a crash, but it does look like perhaps a little bit of consolidation into the subsequent weeks here. And that is also shown by the relative strength popped up here, not quite to the 80 line, and then looks like it's just heading on over. The same thing here in the stochastics, a nice curve on over with a fast line under the slow line and then heading just down. And that's all healthy, nothing wrong with that. Into volume, volume looks fine. And then the Williams, I would expect the Williams, which just hit this negative 20 line here. I'm kind of expecting this to head further down and maybe toward the 50 line, perhaps like this, so we can get that move back to, on the weekly chart again, back to the 20 EMA, and then maybe that can serve as a stepping stone for the next move upward. So everything looks fine. Perhaps a little consolidation coming in the subsequent weeks, but other than that, at least we're not upside down like Washington, D.C. So stay tuned for today. That's ChewDog Charts. Thank you.